Good evening, folks. So I wasn't planning to be on here tonight, but as you can imagine from the impromptu live screen, you know how this works. I was all fine and dandy. I already made a video. I was already good to go. I was already very productive for the beginning of the year. And then, of course, the content gods must be appeased, and they did a thing. So it is a live stream, but at the same time, in all honesty, it's basically a recording to give some early initial thoughts and then talk about it, some reckless speculation. It's time for some reckless speculation. We love reckless speculation. That's important. That's critically important. So I'll acknowledge the chat as well as we go along. What I am going to do is I'm actually going to put a link in there. So if anybody who is watching and wants to kind of join in, chime in their 2 cents, they're more than welcome to. Bouncer will be in effect as always. I will keep an eye on that. But otherwise, it'll be relatively short because I want to talk through a couple of things, what we do know about it. Also give some initial thoughts, but then at the same time, then we'll just kind of trail off from there. And if we find out more information tomorrow, then we'll be able to go with it. So real quick. Ready and waiting. Awesome. Good to hear. It's either this or Kingpin starting Woody Harrelson and Randy Quaid. That's tough. Kingpin's not bad. Yep. What up? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Absolutely. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you so much. Okay. So real quick, we'll get into the meat of the thing. Sportico was really the first one that circulated it out. Social media, Fanatics, buying tops. So what I'll do is I'll share a little bit of screen and then we'll talk about it. So you don't just have to look at me the whole time. So we'll do that. Let's get this on the screen here. There we go. And boom. Love it. Okay. So basically this is the article in question that kind of got the things rolling, and then social media picked it up. I actually picked it up on Instagram, and legitimately I joked with a couple of folks on text message as soon as I saw it, is that I was actually making a snack. I was eating a sandwich, and then I was going to, and then I was actually not going to do anything else. I was going to watch some YouTube myself. And then they go and do this, and I'm like, the content gods must be appeased. I'm going to finish my sandwich first, though. I did finish eating my sandwich. So basically what it comes down to is really simple. No terms or anything yet. The announcement is supposed to come in tomorrow. So I'll quickly scan a couple of things here for you. Fanatics has reached an agreement to acquire the Topps trading card business. According to people familiar with the plans, a move that will likely accelerate fusion push into the booming industry. That was one of the year-end things that we talked about as a potential thing. I don't think any of us thought that we'd be looking at it in the third day of the new year, but here we are. So Michael Rubin's company is buying Top Sports Entertainment, a business unit that includes physical cards and digital collectibles, according to people who were granted anonymity because the negotiations are private. The remainder of Topps Co., including Bazooka Confectionery, will remain with its current owners, private equity firm, Madison Dearborn and Michael Eisner's Toronto company. So that was kind of the reason I didn't think it would be so quick, is that it's Michael Eisner. So, okay, fine, sure, great. It's unclear how much Fanatics is paying for the deal. A representative for Fanatics declined to comment. Representatives for Topps, Durante, and Madison didn't immediately respond to emails seeking comment. And then a little bit more information related to that. And part of the other reason that I thought it was surprising that it'd be this quick is that the move by Fanatics basically scuttled the deal that was going to happen here, the SPAC acquisition that would have made Topps a $1.6 billion company, and it's worth substantially less as an independent entity with its licenses running out. But nonetheless, it definitely has value, and having that continuity makes a lot of sense, and that immediately puts Fanatics in the game. So to speak, because now all of a sudden they're able to almost immediately start making cards. And not only that, and obviously, you wouldn't be able to turn on all the mechanisms and make it go. But one of the first things you got to think about is a deal like this then allows you to take advantage of those other licenses that you would be acquiring. So in the meantime, you could make Major League Baseball cards because you've already got that license built in before it expires. And then it would roll over to the Fanatic side of things. But then as soon as you roll over and those other licenses come up, all of a sudden you can have Topps football. You can have Topps basketball. So those other licenses they picked up are suddenly available, and you can have them under the Topps brand. Topps Finest football, Topps Finest basketball are all suddenly in play. Not immediately, but then, eventually down the road when those other licenses kick in. So obviously that's kind of a big deal. And I'll grab a couple more things on here. I also picked it up from The Athletic. It was a lot of the same information. So we're going to cover that. So let me just stop sharing the screen for a second. As I said, I'm going to put the link here in the chat for any of the regulars. If any of them are popping by and want to comment on it a little bit, definitely can. It is interesting. So we'll have to see what comes of that. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I thought at this point, honestly, with the information available name, there was really no point in doing like a self-contained video, then edit it and upload it. Realistically, it'd just be more fun. Honestly, also, I was like, okay, well, after I finish my snack, I'll fill up my beer and we'll sit here and do some reckless speculation. So it's one of those things where now it opens up a whole realm of possibilities. That's really the big thing. It opens up a lot of possibilities. So good evening, Eric. Hopefully you're feeling better. Big news, but I think we all suspect this is a possible move. Yeah. Almost, to be honest, it doesn't necessarily mean they're done. They can certainly make another move. But even just having the Topps license, so Topps license first, because they would have access to the Major League Baseball thing right away and be able to produce cards right away under the Topps banner. And then subsequently, they would be able to continue to produce baseball cards under the Topps banner. So there you go. The Topps, fanboys are, this may be their saving grace that, their precious Topps will continue going forward. Hopefully better than it was being run previously, because I wasn't super impressed with the last couple of years of offerings, but nonetheless. And then suddenly those other sports become available. Like I said, you could have a Topps Finest basketball and a Topps Finest football because you've got the license, you've got the brand name, and then the license to go along with it once it rolls over under Fanatics control. So it is a big deal. Plus, you have some of the logistics and things that Topps has, at least out of the gate. It kind of gives you a little bit of a cheat code to move you further along in infrastructure instead of having to start from scratch. So it is going to be kind of interesting. I was actually scanning the Fanatics, careers page, and they've got the trading card section, and they're looking at, directors and a lot of different salespeople for a lot of the different sections. So they are definitely starting to hire up as far as that's concerned. But we're going to have to see if that actually then translates over into anything in particular. So that's what's going to be part of the fun with it. Good, good. Good to hear you're doing better. Good evening, Baz. Absolutely. So yeah. So let's take a look here at one more. This was the one that actually made me chuckle a little bit. Not going to lie. Because, of course, you can't have a big hobby story without the Ken Golden. Come on. You got to have Ken Golden in there. There it is. We'll try to go live tonight to discuss. Ken, you got to learn how to do it. Faster, bro. He does it on Instagram. He can just push a button. Come on, man. You got to pick up on it. So it is a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see Ken's take on it because he's always got, his angle on the whole deal. I'm excited for Topps NBA. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean. Like, there's going to be some possibilities. I picked Finest in particular, but, there are other different brands and things that you could definitely have that suddenly become available. It becomes viable. So it would be very interesting. We'll have to see. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be one of those things where, like, I'm hoping that it is that they don't just keep using that as a crutch, because they do use the old designs over and over and over again, which I don't mind to a certain point, but in every single issue, every single time. And that means more than likely they'll be, they'll have the license and the manufacturer through Topps' 75th anniversary, which will come up in about 5 years. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. Not known yet, Bass. Right now, we're actually at the stage where the articles and everything are early leaks on an announcement that is supposed to come tomorrow. So we'll have to see if they actually announce a dollar amount. But given that it's a couple of different corroborating stories from a couple of different outlets, because it was Sportico who originally gave it out as breaking news. The Athletic has picked it up. Obviously, Ken Golden's picked it up as well. So we can assume that more than likely there's enough smoke here. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what they end up doing with that. I'm willing to give it enough credence. If it had been one or two, that's when I saw the first posting on it, I was kind of going to ignore it when it was just Sportico. But then I did a quick Google search, saw it on the Athletic, and then saw that Ken Golden decided to run with the Sportico thing. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's enough for you. And now it's circulating the round. So hopefully they've got all their I's dotted and T's crossed and they're ready for an announcement. So we'll see. Good evening, Greg. Absolutely. Assuming this won't affect a design of the upcoming Topps releases, could be one of the Fanatics' immediate moves be to lower the absurd print run on flagship. So this is kind of an interesting, that's why I say, like, it's kind of fun to do the speculation thing. Truthfully, if I was them, I wouldn't. I might even print more flagship, to be perfectly blunt, because flagship's job isn't to be a premium brand. Flagship's job is to be available. It's one of those things where you got to kind of keep in the back of your mind that Josh Luber's already said. And the thing is, he's not going to be held to everything he said, because at the end of the day, he has the plausible deniability that he didn't promise anything. But just going off of what he's discussed previously, his thought process that he's articulated out loud, the thing he wrote in his essay, all those things would lead you to suggest that he would like to have a couple of brands that are consistently available. Well, that's basically what flagship is for. It's really the product that should pretty much be on the shelf year round. And if you do that, that's not going to be reducing print runs. In order to do that, you have to maintain print runs and, in fact, maybe even increase print runs, because Topps flagship doesn't necessarily have to retain a ton of value. It can just be that's the set builder's product. That's the product you give to the kids. That's the standard one that's available to everybody. And the other thing is, what is an absurd print run? That's part of the fun, is that we'll see if down the road he is willing to go through all the way down to giving information about what those print runs are. Because what you could deem to be an absurd print run to somebody else is not that absurd. It kind of depends, right? So we'll have to see. I'm curious to see if they go through with it, what people will deem to be an absurd print run, high print run, low print run. What does that mean? It's going to be kind of interesting to see. Yeah, CNBC Wall Street Journal, beautiful. Okay, so I think we're comfortable that we're in a good space with enough people throwing weight behind it. Yeah, can't short the print run when you save Wander Franco to start him off. Yes, yes. But that's the thing is that if he goes with the model that he's said he would like to go with, let's say he does. If he goes with that model, then there's going to be a product. You know, you can decide what you think that product should be, but you're going to have a product that you're going to print a lot of it. So you're going to have to adjust how you're going to do it. You can have some limited products, but flagship has never been limited. So it's one of those things like trying to make it limited now would make no sense. Curtailing the print run would be silly unless you genuinely don't think it serves any purpose anymore. Yeah, buying tops will definitely eat into the ROI of creating one's own in-house brands. Yep, absolutely. I don't think Fanatics was ever serious about doing its own in-house brands. I don't think there's going to be Fanatics trading cards. I think it was going to be whatever they decided to do, powered by Fanatics. That was the whole advantage of getting the licenses, where all those licenses were years away from kicking in. They could build their entire infrastructure and decide what they wanted to do, but it was just a matter of having these brands. I thought Topps was a good candidate just because their value has not gone up. As soon as the Fanatics thing became out there, as soon as it became clear they were not going to be able to retain the baseball license after the expiry of the contract, then their value dropped. Not like immediately necessarily, yeah, but at the same time, like if you're looking at Topps, their value is suddenly a lot lower because it's like, yeah, you've got brands, yes, you've got history, you've got all that you can tap into, but what are you going to produce cards of? You know, Topps going after the Nippon baseball and going after all those licenses. It's like that's great. Those are add-on licenses that you can throw in there, but that isn't gonna cut it. You're going to need a lot more if you actually want to be able to operate as a full run manufacturer. Uh, Topps baseball is basically like their bread and butter. It's their iconic brand, so that is always going to be part of it. Um, Anything beyond that was just going to be just kind of treading water because all these other properties that they have, well, then if those properties ran out and Fanatics or somebody else bought them or Panini bought those, then Topps would run out of licenses eventually unless they had something else in their back pocket. Uh, Again, the surprise wasn't that they were purchased. The surprise was that they would do it so fast. The surprise, so they would have had to have been talking about it. So we'll definitely gonna have to see. If they were going to just buy Tops, they didn't have to overpay and give equity to all the leagues. Should have down that first and should not have overpay for all the pie. No. If you want to get the leagues on it and get like this long exclusivity contract, it wasn't about just getting the licenses. It was about getting the licenses for a really long time and getting to agree to it. So yes, you did have to overpay. Um, because otherwise you'd be shifting around back and forth licenses like the current model. You needed to make it super enticing. So it's one of those things like if the leagues genuinely believe that they can get a piece of that pie for the long run, it's not silly at all. And for Fanatics, it's the long play because you got to remember that all those licenses they pick up, they didn't pick them up for 2 or 3 years or 5 years. Some of those licenses, I think, are upwards of 20 years. So they basically said, we're going to hold this license effectively in perpetuity. You know, not really, but effectively in perpetuity, meaning that nobody else is really going to get a chance to get those licenses. So that is where the value came from, this long-term deal. And by having the leagues have a vested interest in it with equity, that presumably would then help sweeten the pot, but then at the same time also would make them presumably more cooperative in the overall venture because they have a stake in it as well. And like I said, Topps' value is only as far as they were willing to take it. If you went beyond that and you decided that, hey, what about, all this heritage and everything? It's like, yeah, okay. So you could always let Topps go down, let their license expire, and then let them, rot on the vine for a while. That was my thought, is that you could let them rot on the vine for a while. But I guess they were able to make a deal that they were happy with. So I predicted this 2 months ago, and I truly believe the next shoe to drop is them buying Beckett and selling limited run pre-graded specialty sets. I would love to see what you would want to do with Beckett. Honestly, I wouldn't want Beckett for pretty much anything other than the grading section of it. Almost all the rest of it is effectively worthless. Go ham fighters, exactly. They will lose money. They bought into a shrinking ecosystem. Well, they already made money. They got $350 million in seed money. Now, will those investors get their money back? Probably not. But technically, they've already made a lot of money. Now it's just a matter of how they're going to use it. They're bludgeoning everybody with cash and equity right now. We discussed on how Fanatics should buy Tops eventually. Yep. Obviously, Fanatics want to pay the best price. So why now? Yeah. Well, that's kind of the part that surprised me. I understand it from Tops' standpoint because obviously the pricing has dropped. That's a big piece of it. But at the same time, if it's Eisner, I'm surprised that his stubbornness wouldn't have held on a little bit longer, at least a couple of months into the new year or something. Return of top scorer in basketball and football. Yeah. Yeah. So have to figure after Eisner lost out on going public, there's back, he'd be looking to maximize the buyout before Topps lost value. Yeah, and that's basically the argument in place. It's like, so is it something immediately it lost value, almost entirely. So it's how stubborn did he want to be? Did he want to try to do it earlier while it had more time left? Because at least while Topps had time left on the license, it has more value in the sense that you can kind of just turnkey, just hand over the keys, and we go, all right, we're out of here. See you later. That's why that figure will be interesting. I'd be curious to see what they actually offered because I think Eisner in that group, if memory serves me, when they got in on the deal originally, it was more than 10 years ago. I think it was 2008, 2009, maybe 2007, something like that. I think it was like 300 or 400 million dollars at the time. So I'd be curious to see what they actually got out of it. I'd be surprised if Fanatics actually paid them anywhere close to maybe what they would wanted to have had, because like I said, that SPAC, that combined entity, was worth 1.6 billion. So the Tops piece, I'd be curious to see what they would have been worth in that little spectrum. They should buy SEC versus Beckett. Yeah, I guess it just depends on what they're looking for as far as if they want to get directly into the grading game, because SGC would at least make sense from that span. Eisner wasn't in for the love of the industry. Yep. So our negotiation going with Panini. I have to assume they're in talks with both. Does this leave Panini behind more of an 8 ball now? So what's interesting here is that while the brands, so part of the reason we discussed the idea of these different brands, one thing you got to remember is that Panini is worth much more than Topps is, at least in terms of value, because they already as a company had more going on. So it's one of those things where Panini had a lot of equity, but it would be more expensive. But I think what's going to be interesting is if you have Topps, you've got some brand going forward, and just like Bless and Breaks here, the excitement for the basketball and football guys will be happy with Topps Chrome, Topps Finest. You're going to have these brands now, and the continuation for the baseball guys of Topps Flagship and other Topps brands, that you don't really need Panini then. Yes, they've got Immaculate. Yes, they've got Exquisite. Yes, they've got all these different brands that do mean a lot. But it's one of those things that you don't necessarily need it. You could have it, but you don't need it. That's kind of what makes it interesting. That's kind of what makes it fun. So if you're going to negotiate with Panini, now you're negotiating from a position of strength. You don't really need them now. It would be a nice thing to have, but not required. Yeah, number going wrong was 1.6 billion. Yeah, that was what the combined SPAC would have been originally. Yeah, I agree the price would be much less. Yep. I would be very surprised if they offered too much. Just very interested in what was stated in the Fanatics game use memorabilia cards. Hopefully it says game use from said player. Yeah, could be. Let's see. A-Rod owns some of the Panini through his SPAC. Yep. COA on the back of the card. Yeah, I'm with you. Good evening, Josh. Absolutely. But yeah, that's the thing, is that if they decided to go into it, they do have the partnership with it. It does help. You can afford to, that's why I say Fanatics was in a position they could afford to wait anyway. But this move potentially then allows them to get into the game now, start doing some products. And by the way, that means that they don't actually have to change anything right away. They can kind of stick with Topps's current planned releases and kind of ease themselves into operating. They don't actually have to make any crazy changes overnight, because you've got a very long, you've usually got a long roadmap. Products that you're seeing this year were already being planned out last year. So it's one of those things where, and 2021 was being planned in 2020 and so on and so forth. So you're not going to necessarily run from one to the other. You're actually going to have to, any plans you change, even if you got into Topps tomorrow, any changes you make wouldn't kick in for a while. So it's like, we'll have to see basically how that plays out. Now, I do see here, Bill wants to join in. So if you are there, Bill, and you would like to join in and chat a little bit, you're going to have to turn on your camera so I can at least see you. So you let me know, but I'll keep an eye on it. Yeah, makes sense. If I'm Fanatics, I'm waiting for Panini to come begging. That's right. Yep. Yeah, there's really no hurry now. If they've got at least a brand in place, that's an opportunity. They don't have to go crazy. They can just give it a go and see what happens. Upper Deck will be next. Exquisite. We'll have to see, because Upper Deck themselves doesn't have any. Upper Deck themselves doesn't actually have any need to move it. They actually had the hockey license, and they actually got it extended. So as far as that concerned, they were able to do that. And when you go and set that up, the reality is, if you're Upper Deck and you've already got the hockey license extended into further into the future, then you don't really need to make a move on it now. It's all these negotiations are kind of from a position of who's got the urgency. Tops probably had the most urgency out of the different ones. So from their perspective, it was a matter of, okay, so our value is dropping steadily as we go along. Now what? So that's what's going to happen. Well, we'll have to see how that goes. So I don't know. We'll have to see if it's even worth their while. I'm really just hoping that it means the Tops will eventually fulfill all redemptions 2022. I don't know if that'll make too much of a difference with that, but we'll have to see. If they're smart, they just use Tops and Bowman brand names going forward. Yep. Also, hopefully it means Tops will actually have the customer service again. We'll have to see what that looks like. I don't know if you've dealt with Fanatics. Not everybody's thrilled with their customer service, so, be careful what you wish for. Upper Deck has Michael Jordan and Gretzky. They don't need to sell. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they already have some stuff and some assets there. They did extend the hockey license going forward, so they've got that. And Upper Deck isn't necessarily in an urgent position. They are privately owned, so they are able to kind of make that call. That's why when they mentioned Beckett earlier, I wouldn't be necessarily interested in Beckett, but at the same time, they're privately owned. So if anybody's privately owned, what's the urgency? What's the need, right? PSA collectors may try to buy Upper Deck. I'd be curious if with all the work they have to do now with the current stuff they have, if they would want to get into manufacturing as well as grading and all the other properties that collectors has. They're already kind of in content, data analytics, grading, and collectors themselves also have all those other third-party graders. So do you want to include manufacturing in that as well and just add another headache and just make the company bigger for the sake of making it bigger and try to be all sides of that equation? I guess Fanatics would probably be one that would maybe consider that because they are very ambitious. They do want to kind of do that. I don't know if that'd be worthwhile for them. That's kind of that's part of the reason why I'd be curious to see if it'd be even worth their while. But I have no idea. We'll have to see. Makes sense. Makes sense. But fair enough. So what I'll ask here is, let's take a look here. Such an annual loyal fan base for Tops. That has to be the best case scenario for the hobby overall. Not that I'm a fan of Fanatics, but the Tops brand needed to stay alive. No, that's fair enough. I think there's other folks that agree with that idea as well. I'm, even as a baseball guy, I'm not that attached to Tops. I really don't care if they stayed or go. It wasn't a big deal to me. Because like I said, Tops hasn't really impressed me with what they've been doing the last several years. They've kind of rested on their laurels and been kind of sloppy and lazy. I'll be curious to see if Fanatics makes some changes, but as I said, I don't think it's going to be immediate, no matter what happens. I think that it's going to take them a little while to ease into it. I would not be shocked if in the immediate interim, they announce it, maybe we hear the dollar amount, maybe we don't. But I think in the very beginning, they're going to be like, yeah, business as usual for the next 6 months to a year as we release this out and start making plans going forward. And and then after that is when you would start seeing changes maybe about a year out from now. Other than that, everything else is like, oh, but why is the product like? Well, that was how the plan was laid out. This was already in the roadmap for Tops. It's just we're releasing the stuff that we're going to do. So we'll have to see kind of what that looks like. But I'd be curious to see. Either way, it's going to be the timing of it is interesting just from the perspective of, well, you got everybody's attention. We had the Mint Collective. Could you imagine if we had actually had the Mint Collective at the end of January instead of getting it pushed back to March? And now all of a sudden your panel's like, so what do you think about this deal? That would have been kind of interesting. It would have been kind of fun. And speaking of Beckett, the president of Beckett was going to speak at it. So it would have been kind of fun to see if he had any comments on it right on the heels of another acquisition right at the beginning of the year. So I guess we're going to start off hot as far as the news, the hobby news. We'll be right out of the gate with it. But anyway, so that's fair. So what I'll say is any other thoughts or any other ideas that anybody has in relation to that? For the most part, I just wanted to chat about a couple of the basic things, get a couple of initial thoughts. But I think it's going to be interesting. And Fanatics entering into the space again, being aggressive, another acquisition. I guess the question would be if they really would feel the need to go, to another acquisition so soon. We talked about a couple of possibilities. Do they want to get into grading? I suppose they could. There's some options there. I would lean SGC, like it was suggested. I think that would be a better idea if they wanted to go that route. But again, anytime you're talking with private ownership, the question is, do they want to sell? It's not even if they need; it's some if they want to sell. So that'd be kind of interesting to see what would happen with that. So it'd be something kind of interesting to play out. Someone who isn't particularly invested in the hobby, Top still rings his brand name. His complete departure would feel like a hole of sorts. No, that's fair. I think that's reasonable. I think that's. I do agree that I think for a lot of folks, the memories associated with Tops would make it very difficult for them to let it go. And I think if this is the case, if it continues under the auspices of Fanatics, I think that's a win for them. The possibilities it opens up in the other sports, I think, is a win for some of the other collectors in the other sports as well. So I think if everything goes as planned and they announce it tomorrow, then I think that's a big win for the basketball and football guys. They have something to look forward to because I know that the Chrome and Finest and some of the other Topps brands were very popular. So it's an opportunity to bring that back because they'll have the other licenses to be able to do it. That's pretty good. So we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. Upper Deck. Upper Deck releases it as part of they do it in kind of the retail product, and also there's the it's like the O-Pee-Chee Platinum. I knew I had one laying around. Yeah. So if you've ever seen it, Eric, they got the O-Pee-Chee Platinum. It's a little hard to see there, but right at the top, O-Pee-Chee is an Upper Deck brand. So they own that one specifically, or at least they've licensed it or whatever the case is, but they have an arrangement so they can use the O-Pee-Chee name. This would prevent Topps from overprinting now to protect their name. You think so? In theory, I guess. But what's going to be interesting is what is overprinting, right? Because as I said, if they decide to go with one of the ideas that were pitched, and you have a product that's perpetually available, well, how can you make it perpetually available? You got to print lots of it. And it's a bit of a chicken or the egg thing. If you overprint it, then it sits on the shelf and then the sales don't go and then you get a bunch of that stuff back. And then next time around you print less, but then it's not available at retail. It's like you're trying to find this balance. You're trying to do it almost to print to demand, but at the same time, you can't possibly gauge the demand. You're guessing. So we'll see what that looks like because I'm trying to think what other Topps brand, if you were going to use something other than flagship, I'm trying to think of what you would use as a perpetually available brand. You could try opening day, but the whole point is opening day. That's supposed to be the point. So I don't know. Who owns the Chiefs? I like that you capitalize owns. That's good. It's Fanatics committing the ultimate don't buy high. Are they? I don't know. And I think what makes it tricky to figure out is I'm wondering if they would I'm wondering if it's a situation where Fanatics was able to convince Topps that their deal wasn't going to get better. Because again, it goes back to if in negotiation, it goes back to who's willing to walk away from the table and who has leverage. So at the same time, it's you didn't have to buy Topps now. That's kind of the part I get back to with Fanatics. You didn't have to buy them. You didn't have to buy them at all. You could go with Fanatics trading cards if you wanted to. You could try for a different brand. You could try for a different set of IP. What's the value of doing it now unless you're satisfied that the price is within the realm of what you want? But it's a good question. It's a very true one. Seems like they had to buy Topps to avoid a competitor from scooping them up and ruining their grand hobby takeover. Defensive purchase. I get what you're saying, but okay, so let's play it out for a second. Somebody else buys the competitor. Okay? So you go for it. Awesome. Sounds good. What are you going to do with it? The license is going to run out and then they won't have baseball. And then Topps is worth pennies on the dollar compared to what it was. So what? Okay. We were going to offer Topps this. I'll offer you half of what I was going to offer Topps originally. It's not worth more. When you lose the extra license, it's like Topps' value wasn't going up. There's actually nothing anybody could have done at this stage right now without any of the major North American licensees available to make Topps better. Unless Topps went out and bought Upper Deck so they could at least get into hockey, then okay, great. Or, Topps and Leaf get together or something. They try to work together in some way, but Leaf is unlicensed. They don't really have any licenses. They do a lot of stuff in celebrities and in terms of, a lot of nice unlicensed product. I buy some of it. It's pretty good. But almost everybody in the North American landscape, if you don't have one of those licensees or your licensee runs out, the value of your brand goes down. It doesn't go up because if Topps tried to produce unlicensed cards, would you guys want them? I might be interested. I'm not really bothered by the license or unlicensed thing, but a lot of people would be a lot less interested. We already know that because Panini makes unlicensed baseball now, and not everybody likes it just because it's unlicensed. They would like it fine if it did have logos on it. But if Topps without that as soon as that license runs out, Topps' value immediately tanks. Now, if somebody else goes and buys it, so you're buying something to, stop Fanatics, an asset that Fanatics knows is going to go down. Why? Why would Fanatics care then? Okay, overpay for it then, if you want to. Okay, so the Charlestown Chiefs. There you go. Do they still make CFL cards? I think that's Upper Deck. As memory serves me, I thought it was still Upper Deck because I think they had the CFL license at least as of a couple of years ago. So yeah, there's another Upper Deck one. So that's out on Topps again. Yeah, another Where's the Beautiful Panini Flawless card with no logo. Yeah, and that's what you'd be looking at. And truthfully, like, I don't mind. For me, I like the flawless design. I like the cards themselves. I think that's cool. Yeah, perfect. Upper Deck has the CFL. Yep, perfect. Thank you very much for confirming, Josh and Paul. Thank you. But yeah, but that's what you'd be looking at. If somebody did try to buy them, it's like, okay, go ahead. If I'm Fanatics, I would literally hold my cards to close to the vest and be like, yes, we're interested at the right price. And if you don't want to do it, we'll just wait until your license runs out and then, okay, so our offer is now half of what we were offering before the license ran out. While the license is still in effect, actually, we can make some mileage out of this and get some value. After that, it becomes worth a heck of a lot less. So if Upper Deck owns O-Pee-Chee, it would have been cool to me if they had bought Topps and released hockey products like they did in the past. Yeah. I just don't think Upper Deck necessarily has the capital. Like, while Topps has been devalued, and more devalued potentially in the future, Topps still has some value at the moment, as long as the license is in effect. And I don't know if Upper Deck would be in a position necessarily. I don't know what their financial position is, but I can't imagine that I don't think Upper Deck is the biggest of that group. If I was going to rank them, I feel like it would be Panini still with the other businesses they have. I feel like Topps, maybe Upper Deck, or maybe they're both pretty close. And if they're both pretty close, how do you buy the other when they're worth about the same as you? Unless it's like a big disparity. That's kind of the thing, is that if you're going to be the purchaser, unless you're going into debt to make this purchase, how are you going to buy somebody that's about your size or maybe a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller? I just don't know how you would execute that deal. It would be interesting, but I just don't know if it would work. But I don't think Topps is going to necessarily be back in the hockey game anytime soon. But I get what you're saying. I think it'd be interesting for some folks especially. That's cool. So any other speculation? I know that there are some basketball and some football fans out there. Is there any product that you're interested in? I got the Chrome one, the Chrome reference from earlier. But is there any other product that you'd be interested in, that you'd like to see? I'd be curious. Obviously, I'd have to look at Topps' stuff. I don't look at it as closely as I once did, but I'd be curious to see what some of those designs would look like in football or in basketball again. Like I said, something to look forward to in the coming years here as those licenses expire and turn over. I can see a future for Fanatics having Topps print memorabilia redemption cards and inserting them in packs. Okay, I get you. Interesting. Something most people aren't aware, but over here in Australia, Select has all licenses for Australian sports. That'll let you know. Oh, I've been looking on eBay. Look, I tried to buy some footy cards, from Select, and let me tell you, it's proven to be a little trickier than I would like it to. And the shipping is off the charts. It's crazy. But I'm giving it a go. We're gonna see. Yeah, Topps Chrome and Finest. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. Any other products of Topps wise that would interest you guys? And same thing for basketball. I'd be curious if any of the basketball guys would enjoy any other products in the Topps line. Because in theory, you'd have access to all of them. Chrome and Finest, for sure, would be ones that I know would definitely be popular and people would enjoy them. I'm just trying to think. Like, you'd have Flagship. Let me think. I feel like I used to know the Topps brands much better, but I don't feel like I know them anymore. You got like Inception, stuff like that. I don't know how much interest that would be in those other sports. Chrome and Finest at least have some history, so that's kind of good. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting, but I guess we'll have to see what that looks like when it comes back. But at least it opens up some more possibilities and some fun with it. And then, of course, you're going to have the super high end because, of course, you do. Let's see here. Dynasty, yep. Ah, Stadium Club. Thank you. I forgot Museum Collection as well. Stadium Club would be a good one. I think I like the pictures in Stadium Club. I love the photography. If they brought similar photography to those other sports, that'd be kind of cool. I think that'd be kind of fun. Cherry collectibles for AFL. All right, cool. Appreciate that. I'll have to check it out. I'll have to see what their deal is for shipping internationally, but no, definitely I'm interested in checking out some of that stuff for sure. So there was a museum collection insert, but there is a museum collection brand under Tops. So that is both are correct. There is a museum collection, parallel, not insert. So parallel for Pinnacle, they used to be called Museum Collection, but there is a museum collection for Tops as a brand. So it is a little bit different. Those are some good callbacks, though. Good call. Alrighty. So more than thing, I wanted to just hang out for a bit, have my beer, and then kind of some reckless speculation on it. So I'll leave it open. Any last thoughts or anything else that you guys would be interested in? What does this look like for you going forward? Are you interested then on this Fanatics venture for some of those other sports? Are you interested in continuing? Are you worried about, we talked about the printing thing. Now that potentially there's an ownership, they won't theoretically turn on the printing machine more so necessarily, unless they decide to go the route that I say. Is there anything else that you're either looking forward to or dreading about this combination going forward into, the next couple of years? Used to be Allen and Ginter football said, yep, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so they can definitely bring back some of those retro styled designs, which I think could be interesting. Could be interesting. I'd have to see what it would look like because they did do that for a while. So I don't know what that would look like going forward. Be kind of interesting. Huge for us internationals. Okay, I like that. It's good. Definitely have to see what that looks like. The distribution will also be interesting to see because Topps was under the old distribution model. And if Fanatics decides to get into the distribution thing for themselves, then it'll be interesting to see how that changes, how allocations go for Topps, and how product gets distributed in general, how it ends up wherever it's going to end up. Are there any issues with that? Are they able to, seamlessly transition that? Or do they wait a little, or similar to what I said about the brands, do they wait a little while, go with the current distribution model for a bit to wean everybody off of it, and then kind of flip on the switch for their own distribution network? So that'd be kind of an interesting thing that could affect how much product is available, at least at the beginning. So that'll be kind of interesting. Really struggle to get products? Yeah, okay, that's fair. I don't think it matters who makes the cards as long as they produce solid products. Collectors have already proven they will continue to support even poor products. That is true. That is very true. That'll be kind of interesting because, like I said, I believe at the moment, I don't think there's going to be much of a change immediately. So it's a funny thing that's like, hopefully you think the product is solid now because I don't think it's going to fundamentally change. I don't think you're going to snap your fingers and Fanatics suddenly either makes it better or worse. I think it's going to be about the same what it was going to be, at least for the next, 6 months to a year worth of products until they actually get a chance to actually make some changes. Will this somehow increase the chances of Upper Deck AEW cards actually being released? It's a fair question. Well, according to the last pushback, they're saying 3 more days. They claim it'll be this week. I don't know about that. Yeah, I did follow Billy Cilio on Instagram, so I might have to just reach out and be like, we got to talk about it, dude. I think it'd be fun. I'd be open to having a conversation with him and just kind of getting a sense of how he feels about it because I know he's interested in seeing the product sent out too. So I know that for sure. I'd just be curious to see what's going to happen. The customer service game can take several steps forward. Redemptions, points, collation could all use work. Yes, I agree with that. I think that's very fair. I think it's going to be the first one you bring up, though, redemptions. I don't know what that's going to look like because at the same time, it's like, so theoretically you want to honor them, but what if you just can't get them? How do you make it work? What kind of adjustment do you make in order to facilitate that? And that's kind of what we're going to have to see. And that'd be my curiosity on that piece. Topps Mayo, yes, absolutely. That's a good call, Baz. I like that. It's true. Do you think Fanatics will try to push Topps' project catalog to a new level? Seems like they involved artists on a global level, which is good for the growth of the hobby. I think the on-demand thing is going to be a kind of a fun thing to see what they would want to do with. Project 2020 was an interesting concept that, of course, became a little disastrous. They did the Project 70, which I haven't looked into too much, but some people seem to enjoy it. The whole print to demand idea and Tops Now as a product line is straightforward. It's pretty solid. I think it's a decent enough idea. I think if executed well, I think it could be a lot of fun. And again, it goes back to you're printing to demand exactly. So, people can order as much or as little as they want. They can't claim it's overproduced because it's like, well, that's what you guys ordered. That's what you guys agreed to. That's what you guys bought. So I'd be curious to see if they would expand the whole print on demand model. Would they go the route of having products that are print on demand, like whole products? Not dissimilar to what they did with the whole Topps Finest flashbacks, but instead of having a set amount, making it available to Montgomery Club members, and then that's it, having a product that you're going to produce to demand. If people order a lot, you print a lot. If people order a little, you print a little, and then let the secondary market figure it out. It'd be more print on demand stuff. But again, there's some stuff that you'd have to do with that. I think Tops Now is a lot of fun, especially when your team's having a special year. Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like a program like that, you could continue it because I think there's still value, and I think people understand that, look, these don't really deserve necessarily huge premiums unless for whatever reason it's randomly short printed, and maybe it's a player's first Tops Now card, and that's the first one they have, and it has a low print run, and for whatever reason the players really gravitate towards that one card, so be it. But the likelihood is if the player's good, they're going to end up on more Tops Now cards going forward, so the effect will get lessened, but there will always be a first. So that could be something that you could definitely have. Just joined, but glad to see Topps live to fight another day with Fanatics. Hopefully lots of people keep their jobs and expand to bring more folks on the professional side of the hobby. No, that's fair. I think that's a fair comment here. I think my expectation, just like I've reiterated during the stream, is that I expect that life will not change at Topps today. And if they announce it tomorrow as is expected, I don't think life will change tomorrow or next week or a month from now. I think there won't be any major wholesale changes for a little while because they're going to have to get their feet wet. They're going to have to get on the ground. They're going to have to look around and try to figure out what's salvageable, what they want to keep doing, what they want to stop doing. But I assume if they've gotten this far, they definitely at least have a plan of what they would think about doing. And then the question becomes, okay, so are you going to then change a bunch of the models, change the distribution, change the product lines, do all this, that? Or are you going to go with, oh, you guys already have some designs and plans for the next year or two? Let's just roll with that and then add a product here and there that maybe has our touch on it. So it could just be weaning everybody in slowly over the next couple of years before you maybe see some more dramatic changes in some Fanatics specific ideas, maybe a couple of years down the road. It would be more gradual than this big dramatic shift. That's why I think it's like the sale is dramatic. The change that it could bring on is interesting to talk about. I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of this is like glacial pace at first. It's like get people in the room, look around, figure out what you need to do, and then start making plans and go forward from there. Cool. All right, guys. So that was a lot of fun. I appreciate you hanging out, having some great thoughts and comments and questions, and throwing some interesting ideas out there. So good times. Back to the usual thing. I'll definitely talk about this more on the Friday live stream. But I thought, all right, it happened tonight, so let's be Ken Golden to punch. He'll have his chance to have his say, and I have no doubt he'll have some interesting things to say. But other than that, we'll definitely talk about it more. I'm looking forward to hearing if they give us any details on what it actually sold for. That I want to see that. But other than that, it'll be interesting just to kind of go through it and see what if anything comes of it and what the immediate reaction is. That's going to be the big thing is what people are going to react to by this time tomorrow and the days to come shortly thereafter. Thank you very much, Eric. So thank you all of you for the great comments and thoughts. If you could on your way out, it would be very kind if you could hit the like button if you enjoyed hanging out. And it always helps the channel and it helps the videos. And other than that, we'll come back on the future ones. Live stream on Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Other videos coming up on the channel as stuff comes up. And will happen. I didn't say it, but I don't disagree with you. Absolutely. Thanks you guys. Catch you in the next one.